Hello and welcome to the Pedro and Banana podcast. Say hello, Hannah Banana.
Hello, Hannah Banana.
People might wonder why we call each other Pedro and Banana. It's because my name's Peter, so Pedro just made sense. And we've always called Hannah Banana.
Yeah.
Since sort of the 90s, really. It's forever, yeah.
I also call you something else, but we won't go there.
Thanks very much, Hannah. Mm-hmm. So, Hannah, today we're going to talk to a teacher. Mm-hmm. And teachers during a global pandemic.
Got it rough.
Oh, my God. This particular teacher is also a mum of a school-age child, so she's had it particularly rough trying to educate her own child.
As well as quite a lot of others.
Yes.
Lovely.
And teachers don't always get a lot of respect for what they go through in terms of providing great education to our children, especially now with all the hardships of trying to come up with quite creative ways of doing things. And I just thought it'd be really great to have her on and talk about what her experience has been.
Yeah, definitely. So interesting.
We'll give her a call now.
Go for
it. Ready for that ring?
Is it going to do that?
We'll add the ring. Yeah, it always does the ring. Do you know what? We could have them lined up, ready to go on. So we just push a button like they do on the radio, and then be, what is it? You're there. You're already there. It's great, you know. And you, sort of people don't notice those things, but I like the old school. Yeah. I like phoning people.
Yeah, it's almost like when you hear the radio competitions. You know, when they're like, there's that moment where you wait for them to call. It's exciting.
So that's right.
This is a lot less exciting for this person. We're not offering her money. She's just got to talk to us.
But what they don't do on the radio is they don't do. So if they've got like a guest for like a show, they'll have them lined up.
Yeah.
But if you win a competition, then they phone you.
Yeah.
So it's like, surprise! They phone you, not because they want you. They want that element of shock. They want people to go, oh my God, really? I want a toaster.
Yeah.
They don't want it to be like, oh, you already knew you want a toaster. Now talk about it. Bada bing. Anyway, here we go. Let's give her a call.
We couldn't do that. We couldn't randomly call a teacher and be like, please, could you talk to us? Yeah. So we had to kind of plan this.
Anyway, she's lovely, so this is going to be amazing. Okay, wait for that ring. Ring.
Oh, I didn't realise it did that.
Yeah, it's great. I loved it.
Hello.
Hello there. Hi, it's Peter and Hannah on the podcast.
Hello.
Hiya, you all right? Hiya.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks. You?
Yeah, not too bad. Have you had a busy day?
It's been okay. Yeah, it's not been too bad. Yeah, but I'm currently off duty at the moment.
Oh, bless you.
That's good.
Thank you ever so much for taking the time to talk to us. I think it's a really important subject to cover.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it definitely seems like there's a change since the last one. So, yeah.
Well, the first thing we wanted to ask you was, obviously with you being a teacher of secondary school-age children, and obviously a mother of a school-age child of your own, that must be a task and a half, surely.
So my little one's actually not school age. He's a toddler.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Hence why I was worried about the screeching in the background, because that's what my kids have been hearing now and then. Unfortunately in the background. So he's just started to learn his voice.
Right. So I wonder if that's harder or not. Like, is it harder if you could imagine doing your own curriculum at home for a child that was a bit older, or whether it's harder with a toddler smashing up the place?
Well, it's funny you say that. I actually was also looking after my nephews the other day, and they are school age. So I was doing a mixture of homeschooling, looking after a toddler, and teaching, which I was a bit like, wow, this is like
you're a superwoman.
Next level.
It's crazy.
And afterwards I was a bit like, okay, I survived.
Oh, bless you.
That's okay. But yeah, so I do know, so for anyone that is homeschooling, I do think, I feel for them at the moment as well. Yeah, doing that. Tricky.
Well, if they are just homeschooling, really, they're doing like one or two. How many are you homeschooling in a way?
Yeah, well, it varies in the classes, and it depends. It's very strange because the younger ones, I think it's a bit easier because even though there's more of them, so like the year 7, year 8s, but they seem to be engaging more. It's more actually the older ones, the smaller classes, that then it's really difficult to kind of get anything back from. Wow. There's that kind of meme, and a lot of teachers kind of saying it's a bit like, when I want to say it's like a seance, when you're talking to spirits, like, you're sort of like, hello, is anyone there? Like, please guys, someone talk to me. Like, that's literally actually my common phrase at the moment. Hello. Someone talk to me. Because they do love the chat, the chat function. They'd rather type to me than actually speak to me. Yeah.
But they speak to each other?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. So like they've got their own, like, because obviously they have to mute their mics so that then they can hear me speaking. But some of them you can tell, they've probably got like the phones on at the same time, so that they're like all talking to each other in the background, but I can't hear them, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So do you think it's the I presume you use something like Teams or Zoom or something like that? Teams. Do you think? Yeah. Okay. So do you think it's more that side of things that's making the children not so engaged, or do you think it's more that because they're older and having the exams so up and down, they don't know what's going on? Do you think they've lost the enthusiasm from that point of view?
Yeah, I think that's second one. Because it's interesting. I was talking to my year 8 students this morning, and it's interesting. Some of them actually said they prefer it to school, which was interesting. I was a bit like, okay.
Wow.
Terrifying.
I think they were meaning in the sense of, and this was interesting, they were sort of saying that they can focus more in the sense that they don't have like someone kicking the back of their chair or someone's, annoying them, or, so I think they quite like the fact that they're in their own space, like it's comfortable at home, which I can kind of understand because, who wouldn't like, sneakily having snacks by the side of their computer and, when Miss isn't looking, that's it, I could tell they've got them, when you're like, right, okay. Yeah. They don't have to have their cameras on. So, God knows what they're probably doing in the background,
big handful of crisps, camera back on.
Yeah, it's the Haribo in the morning, like talking to my form group. It's like, they're asking the question of breakfast. Yeah, it's quite sad actually, because one sixth former, bless her, I was saying like, because it's snowing outside, and she was like, is it? And I was like, have you not even opened your curtains yet?
Wow.
Like, wow. So I was like, okay guys, right, come on, let's at least open up the curtains, feel like mum mode, and teaching at the same time,
Oh, crikey.
Yeah.
So you've noticed some serious changes between the first lockdown and now in terms of what you have to bring to the table.
And I suppose actually again I was kind of lucky because I was on a maternity leave over the first lockdown. I only kind of came in a couple of times because I had like my keeping in touch days, and then obviously just before the summer came off maternity, so that was a big shock. It was kind of like, okay, a year out of teaching, hadn't seen any kids for ages, and then all of a sudden like, here's Teams, you've got no training about it. But here you go. And so I was like, okay, I'm not the most tech savvy either, which I probably shouldn't say being a technology teacher.
I was going to ask you what your subject was.
Yes, it's design and technology though. I'm the more design side.
Yeah.
Yes, that's my kind of escape from that. I'm not a computer scientist. There's no like IT kind of, but yeah. So I think the first lockdown as well, and hearing from the school that I'm at now, because I also changed schools over COVID as well. So there was a lot of changes, So coming back from maternity, was with the old school, and the old school I did think it was okay because it was just setting assignments. So the kids just did the work, you give them feedback, it was, messages, wasn't too bad. There was like that kind of feeling of no pressure. I think we're all kind of, okay, we're all in the unknown, we're all in this kind of together feeling. Whereas now with the live lessons, and I think that kind of pressure of, right, we all know what we're doing, we can do this, set all this work. And I can hear from family members that are homeschooling that, their kids are getting set a lot of work and they are feeling that kind of pressure. It's like, oh, wow, we've got to get all this done in a day, and kids are on the laptop. I mean, I feel for the kids because I ended up having a migraine, just from screen time, like 5 hours literally on the video, and also seeing my face, I do say to them, I do feel bad for them, like, on the big screen, when you're kind of like, oh dear, okay. I even attempted, I thought, right, I'll have a day like no makeup, because I must admit, I don't know about anyone else makeup wise, but running out and not all shops selling it, so I thought it's all right, I'll ration it a bit, won't wear makeup.
Tell me about it.
I know. Well, I thought I could get away for it, like I get away with it, because kids have thought, nah, they won't notice. No, as soon as first lesson, year 11, straight away, Miss, oh my God, you look ill. And I was like,
wow.
Oh no.
I know, very, very honest student, yes. To which I was like, oh, well, I just thought I'd have a makeup-free day. And then you could just tell that there's just silence after that. It was like, no more.
Oh.
Yeah, never mind.
It's not fair if they're able to have their camera off on some occasions, though, and you have to have yours on all the time. Who knows what they look like behind that?
Well, that's the thing. They're probably all still in their PJ.
Yeah. Under the duvet.
Exactly. Not even left their rooms. Yeah, because just encouraging them to go for walks, and just get away from the screen. Because bless them, a lot of them are just staying in their rooms and
How do you think it's going to affect them moving forward with all of this? Do you think that in some ways they're going to be like the lost generation, as so many places are saying, so many newspapers, all the media outlets are saying all of these students are going to be the lost generation. They're not going to have the education they need to get on in the world. Do you see that? Social skills, yeah, definitely. Do you see that happening around you?
It's difficult. I don't think maybe as extreme as like lost generation, but I think that we definitely need to put more things in place to help them. Like I do think, so tutor time at the moment, I've been working on doing like mental health stuff with the kids and just letting them know that we are here, because it seems that compared to like last lockdown, so again, interesting speaking to some of my tutor group, they kind of felt like the last lockdown that maybe they were a bit abandoned, but it was because everything was unknown before. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like letting them know that no, actually, we've done this before. We can do this again. You guys will be fine. And keeping that ambition, because I think that's mainly, it's very difficult in terms of keeping them motivated to not feel like, okay, we are in this position again, but it's okay. We can keep striving for what it is that you want to do. This is not saying like that's the end of it, just because things are difficult at the moment doesn't mean that's it. You're not going to aim for your career as whatever you're aiming for. And I think just definitely that more support and getting the kids to speak more openly and their feelings, because based on some of them have gone through awful things, losing family members and seeing all the the difficulties with their parents, but then also it's kind of seeing actually and like learning from their parents. So I think it's been really lovely hearing about how some parents, bless them, lost their jobs, or they've had to suddenly change careers, and you think like how awesome that is that they've taken like a difficult situation, taken the challenges, and it's like actually they've made it better for themselves. Like I was hearing of a fellow teacher who was struggling because she was supply, and obviously at the moment, to be honest, schools don't really need supply because they're not actually in, and she's turned that around and gone for this like writing job, and she's loving it. And it's just lovely to hear that she never would have gone for that if it weren't for people starting up their own businesses, like baking's booming and all that kind of thing. So I think it's kind of just reminding the kids that this is not like, the end. This is not, all doom and gloom. We can, and actually they have that time. So we've got extra courses that we can offer them, linked to their careers, especially, I don't know if anyone's kind of like noticed, there's a lot of free courses that are out and about,
Yeah, that's right, there are.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to kind of like skill up sort of thing, I mean, I wish I had that kind of time when I was,
Listen to you, so much optimism. I wish you were my teacher.
You got to. No, you can't always turn it into a positive. That's the thing, and I think actually it's just that resilience and trying to like be flexible with things. I know it's very difficult, and I say that because anxiety wise, I was already an anxious person before this anyway, and I think actually all teachers would kind of say we love routine. And I think actually the fact that routines have changed so much, so just encouraging the kids to get their own new routine, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
that kind of transition from, okay, yes, now we're in another lockdown, but that's okay. It's like, let's start a new routine. Okay, set that alarm before tutor would be good, rather than you can definitely tell when alarms are going off, because there's like a flurry of people joining on there.
Brilliant.
It's like, actually, get up, I get a shower, or actually, make some breakfast. But don't know, we're getting there with that one. But routine.
I suppose in a way it's teaching them to become quite adaptable, and showing that we can do it, so it gives them, I suppose it's giving them some tools for the future, really, if anything like this occurred again.
We will see.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, it's that kind of resilience, I think. And then actually, I think kids, if we give them always that credit, they do actually, I think personally, I don't know, I think some of them might be more go with the flow than I am.
Oh, bless you.
I kind of have seen some of them where they've kind of taken it in their stride a bit.
So
you mentioned about anxiety. How do you feel about the prospect of the government asking you to go back to work in March without offering you a priority vaccine?
Well, to be honest, I don't know about other teachers, but since September, I've always been wearing a face shield. That's just my personal choice. And I know that, okay, that's not like saying, okay, I'm definitely not going to get it. But I think just as long as I try my best to do what I can to keep as safe as possible and just following what they put in place, there's been a lot of policies, different systems, so it's kind of keeping that trust that the school will try and keep me as safe as possible. And if not, I do hope that schools would listen more to unions and to teachers. If teachers are sort of giving suggestions, I kind of hope that would be listened to, because we kind of know, if that makes sense. Without making it sound like we don't know everything. But...
No. But do you feel that given the risk taken in your role going back, and also the fact that you're being asked to go back to work, presumably, that you should be offered a priority vaccine?
And I suppose I was thinking about this in terms of, I'm just glad that, I think NHS workers and everyone is kind of like, I suppose it depends. I'm not sort of saying that I need it more than someone else, but I do think actually I'm happy that NHS workers getting. So I've got a friend of mine that works in NHS, and she's pretty much on like the front line, so the fact that she's in the hospital, she's in the direct line, okay, I'm not at school at the moment, but we survived. We had the 3 months, the September to December in schools, and without even, that wasn't possible at the time. Like, we didn't think that we were going to have a vaccination. So I think I'm happy to wait. I'm happy, as long as the idea of getting one.
We absolutely agree with you. Obviously, NHS, staff need to be prioritised, understandably. But from our perspective, we think that teachers should get the vaccine as a priority.
Yeah, I mean, looking back at it, I think a lot of what people were saying were that effectively it was the senior schools that were causing a lot of the spread in general. Obviously not the children's fault in any way, shape or form, but it was more a case of the sheer amount of children that would have been within a student bubble all mixing together, and obviously their families then all joined together in that sense. I mean, did you ever feel like that was a bit too much and maybe the senior schools needed to be closed a little bit earlier before this lockdown, or did you feel like everything was in place and it was a safe environment?
It varied at different points. I think it all kind of depended, and I think it's difficult. I think at least the system of the bubbles, I think, kind of worked quite well. And especially at school I'm at, the separate corridors, there's a lot of corridors to keep separate, so that was really good. There was like kind of separate parts of the school, so the kids didn't mix in that sense. And especially so the younger years, the year 7s and 8s, they had to stay in their classroom. So they didn't change classrooms, if that makes sense. It was just the older ones, because they have their subject specific lessons. So that made things a lot easier. I think the main, maybe again, it's individual schools, and this is what I'm kind of saying. I think they should listen teachers is just things like they suggested at the beginning, and I was very happy about this, where a couple of minutes before the end of the lesson, teachers were allowed to go first in the corridor.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like avoid the mass of children that's about to come flooding down the corridor.
Yeah.
It was quick, like you make a quick escape, you know.
Yeah.
But then near the end, near towards December time, that kind of changed, and it was like, okay, actually no, you know, teachers don't do that anymore. You know, we won't have that swap over of teachers and then the kids go sort of thing. So that I think it's things like that, you know, when they keep swapping and changing things, that maybe that's the whole adding to anxiety, and that's when then they get concerned. It's kind of like, I'm happy to follow systems, not worry too much about things, because you know, putting that trust in there, but when things swap and change, then I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's incredibly.
So would you prefer to be back at work if you could be, or is it harder to manage your job from home, or how do you feel about that?
I think most teachers would say they definitely prefer the teaching in the classroom. I think, you know, that I suppose that's what we trained for, and that's what the part of the job that we love. But it just depends on what's going on in terms of, you know, infection, isn't it, the infection rate. See, I must admit, I don't actually really follow too much with it. I find it a bit too negative. I want to try and keep, you know, where it's just going with the flow, going with what it is. If it's safe to go back, in the sense of, you know, that numbers go down, then I think that's fine. And I think actually maybe it might be better for kids, in the sense we're sort of saying about that interaction. I think they do need that. I think they're getting too comfortable now with the whole, okay, I won't actually speak to someone, I'll just type, you know, or actually I'll just act like I'm not there. That whole kind of like, I can see your name is there, you have joined the meeting, like, please, are you there? Or have you just like disappeared, you know? So I think maybe, I do think teaching online, I think most teachers would tell you it's not that fun, especially when it keeps crashing. Teams is known for it. It will, like, you know, just suddenly kick you out the meeting, and then you'll have to like quickly log back in and try and get back into this. And all the kids have told me I've had a very lovely glitch faces, like where it will just freeze. And I'm like, okay, just please don't send me screenshots.
I was going to say, they're going to do that.
You're going to end up a meme.
Oh, probably. Yeah, I dread to think. I do say to them, I'm like, no, honestly, don't send me pause faces. No. So I think out of the two, I'm not also saying that I'm rushing to go back. I think it's a very difficult one. I think we've all kind of done well in the last month to kind of get back into that routine of the online learning and ironing out the issues. It's certainly a lot better. And I do think the schools are supporting better with that, you know, giving guidance, because we weren't given any training with this, you know. Teachers were just sort of thrown in. It was like, hi, here's Teams, you know.
Wow.
Here you go.
Wow.
You know, and there's been a couple of challenges, you know, so knowing how to deal with behaviour issues over Teams, you know.
Crikey,
so
you can't send them out the room, can you? That's just
when they're arguing on the chat, it's like, okay, eat, what do I do?
I never even considered that.
No, you wouldn't even think of it.
No.
Oh no. And they can literally type whatever they want, really, I suppose, at that point.
God forbid.
Yeah. Which we haven't had any of that just yet. It's mainly more just the bickering, which they tend to do. Usually it's, you know, bickering over pencils or something. But now it's just general bickering on there. But I actually, it's quite rare though. I've only had like 2 occasions, but it's just, like I said, that's why I think it's better when we are in the classroom. It's that whole, that's what we're used to. We're not used to, okay, how do I police this? How do I, technology-wise, how do I sort this out? And when they forget that their mic's on as well. So you could have this lovely, where one was making himself some breakfast in the background, was telling me quite happily, it's like, oh yeah, I'm just microwaving this, miss. And it's like, right, mute your mic. You know? Which there is actually a button, you can do it, like, see where you mute the whole class. But it's what I mean. So unless if someone tells you these things,
you wouldn't know.
No.
There's so much opportunity for comedy genius there.
Oh, there's so many. Yeah, it really is. And like I said, even with my little man in the background as well, toddler wise, I mean, the noises he's made, and then the kids are like, "Miss, what is that?" And it's like, "It's okay, it's just my toddler in the background." Okay. I don't know if you've seen any like the social media where, you know, there was the teacher where she farted on there.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, so yeah, I haven't done that personally. That's not me confessing or anything. But it's just very difficult. Yeah, because you just feel like, okay, I don't want to make any, like when you're teaching, it's like, right, silence in the room. But hey, hang on, I've got a toddler in the next, literally right there. You know, or the postman, you know, or parcel deliveries knocking on the door. I'm very glad I don't do a lot of online shopping anyway, but when the postman does knock on the door very loudly, you know, because it always piques their interest. So it's like, oh, who's at Mrs. Door, you know, like, it's all right, nosy people.
They want you to open your Amazon parcel in front of everyone.
Yeah.
Do you know what? You've got such a lovely positive attitude. Why aren't we paying you more?
Yeah. I won't get into the politics of that.
There are politics attached to it because, you know, it seems to be that there are an awful lot of people that think teachers have it easy because you've got the school holidays, you know, all these term times on and off that other working people don't have. I don't think a lot of people really appreciate what it's like to be a teacher, how hard it actually is, and how desperately you need those breaks by the time they come along.
Yeah, it's more the evening time as well. You know, so the plan the lessons, especially also all of this online learning. So like the other day, my Teams crashed for it was about 3 hours. So it only came back to life at about 10 o'clock at night, and I was like, great, okay, now I've got to set all the assignments on at 10 o'clock at night. And it was like, you know, when you're just desperate for bed, and I was like, really, why now? Why could it have not when it was, you know? So it's just that kind of that evening time. You know, so that's why weekends are, and definitely half term, I think everyone's all feeling that, even whether they're teachers or not. I think we're all ready for half term next week. The kids didn't even realise. I said about it today to them. I was like, oh, it's all right, we've only got, you know, this week and it's half term. They're like, it's half term? What? It's like, yeah. Yeah, even though I suppose like I can't do much, but I think just that time, actually, just that time away from the laptop, you know, and the screen time. Yeah, no, I won't say any more about pay on that one.
But do you know what? Even when you're working from the classroom, even when things are normal, in no world does a teacher not take a huge amount of work home with them at night. It's not as if, you know, it ends, the day ends, and then you go home and just get to live a pleasurable life. You're planning, you're prepping, the job goes on and on and on. And that's why a lot of people who do support teachers believe that the job is more of a calling than it is just a job.
Yeah, I think they call it a vocation. I hear this a lot where it's like, they say it's, you know, it becomes part of life.
It's true.
Yeah. And I think as well, it was more that feeling that people kind of thought that teaching online was easier for teachers. And I don't know about anyone else, but for me personally, it's not. I'm much more comfortable in the classroom actually speaking to the kids than all of this. And like I said, especially as soon as, like I said, not everyone had that training. I don't know if it was just because I was on maternity and missed out on the on that sort of side of things, but saying that, I was speaking to the kids and they were saying that I just asked them, sort of said, you know, how could we make lessons a bit better, and they were just saying how not all teachers are obviously happy with Teams or know how to use some of the functions and stuff. So even they were getting a bit, it's interesting. They're definitely one of my year nines that I go to. She's like my IT support. And at the beginning, there was a couple of things like where I couldn't figure out, how do I share like my PowerPoint? And, you know, so she'd be like, right, click on that button and click that one. But yeah, so it's, when people say, it must be easy for teachers to be sat at home, you know, okay, they've got their slippers on, you know, and teaching with the laptop. As much as it's lovely having the slippers on, it's just not the same. It's really not.
Do you think that over this time, so obviously we've had a year of this now, effectively, do you think over this time the government, the education authorities, they could have put together something in terms of homeschooling to make life easier for you, to obviously make it more productive for the children? Do you think they could have done anything better?
They suggest a lot of the common ones like Oak Academy and a lot of the kind of like websites, etc. But I think what's kind of difficult is the different subject specialist areas. So especially secondary, you've got so many subjects that aren't kind of covered by that. So it's lovely where they're like, hey, look, we've got new resources, and you get all excited as a teacher, like, yes, give me resources like now. But then you click on it and it's like, it doesn't cover what I teach.
I was going to say that must be so hard for you, design and technology. I mean, how do you even go about covering that over a laptop screen?
Well, without the practical, this is the thing. And my main subject is food. So that's
crikey.
even more.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's difficult because, you've got families that, bless them, money wise, you just don't know. You don't want to, say, okay, let's do this practical and then, have the messages through saying, they might struggle with the ingredients wise. So it's kind of bearing that in mind. But saying that, a couple of fun activities we're going to be planning. I say myself, what I'm thinking is on a Friday, having, if it's just like a 10 minutes away from the screen, just do something, if I say foodie. And I've seen this already with a fellow teacher where so students were just like washing up and organising the fridge. So parents were happy because that's like 10 minutes of like, yes, my fridge is now organised. But it just gets them away from that laptop.
That's great.
Even if it's just for 10 minutes, not for a whole lesson. We're not like, spend the whole hour rearranging or being Mrs. Hinches, in the kitchens. But,
it's very clever. It's very clever. You start with the washing up, and then we move to the hoovering, and doing some laundry. Fantastic.
Well, I suggested to my tutor group, I was like, make your mum and dad like a cup of tea. And they're like, I don't know how to do that. It's like, well, this is the perfect time to learn. Like, here's your new task. There you go. Right. Cup of tea or coffee in the morning. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. It's great having you on. I'll tell you what's really funny about having you on is that we always send our guests a list of sort of rough questions that we'd ask, just so you get a good idea of what it is you're going to talk about, so we don't surprise you when you come on. And normally people just read them, but as a teacher, you actually wrote a reply to every single question we said and emailed it back. We thought that was fantastic. Thank you.
We'll talk about that routine. It's like, it just gets embedded in life.
You can take the teacher out of the school.
Yeah. Well, it's like the husband says, the teacher voice comes out now and then. Yeah.
Oh, bless. So do you think moving forward, like obviously with the children that they're going to be heading back to school soon, do you think that have you heard anything in terms of how they're planning on reintegrating? Is it going to be a similar situation to the student bubbles as beforehand? Do you have any idea of how they're going to do it?
I must admit they haven't said anything, and I think that's part of the problem as well is just that communication, and not all schools know, I suppose. I'm not judging head teachers, I'm hearing that they're given last minute kind of knowledge, so passing that down. But it would be nice if we could. I think the kids might need that, where we go back to what we had before. I think if not, that maybe might be a bit confusing to everyone to be like, oh no, okay, now what are we doing? So, and I do think the bubble system actually did work, especially like I said, the separate buildings for separate year groups. That and the separate times, like lunchtime wise, staggering that did help. So I hope that that if it was similar, but at the end of the day, if they say, okay, this is the best way for us to go forward, as long as we're just given guidance and clear communication, then that's fine, because it does make you question everything. It sounds silly, but you
must, I mean, on top of everything else, exactly, on top of everything else you've always had to do in terms of safeguarding everything, lesson planning, everything that you do, you are now having to think about a multitude of other things on top of it in terms of people's safety, your own safety. It must be so much more difficult to go about your day just in that sense.
Especially when it first started in the September, and I say like the staggered like break time and lunch times, that was very confusing with like then planning the lessons. It's like, oh, okay, actually they've got 15 minutes here, lesson time. Then they go off for a break, then they come back to me. And then it's that sort of thing. And I had to kind of change my timetable on like my diary to kind of slot in, okay, they have a break here, they have lunchtime here. If not, and colour code it. Otherwise I was like, no, it's just not going to work. It just doesn't work. And duties as well, because no one likes to get chased up to be like, look, you were meant to be here like 10 minutes ago, and it's like, eek, okay, right, I'm coming.
Yeah, it's just not nice. You've already got too much to think about. That on top of it, it's just not helping.
Yeah, but I suppose it's helping with being more flexible and more resilient.
Getting out of a routine.
Yeah, so it's strange. It does tackle kind of the anxiety in some ways, in a sense of it is pushing me to kind of be like, okay, actually, as much as I love planning things and love my routine, okay, got to be a little bit flexible. So it's, but just not too much where it's like, okay, every single week it's something different, something new.
Yeah.
So what would you say are your main anxieties now?
That's a good question. I don't know.
You just feel it? Almost like a subconscious thing because of maybe everything you're having to deal with.
I think mainly the anxiety it's that balancing act, looking after little one, the teaching. Whereas before I didn't have that. So at least when I'm actually in school, it's school mode, teacher mode, kind of balancing mum mode and teacher mode. It's kind of tricky, it's like, okay, has my little one napped? Does he need this? Does he need that? And that mum guilt, that kind of like, okay, I'm not giving him my full attention all the time. But I think that's just natural mum guilt anyway. I was already feeling guilty that I was putting him in nursery and going to work. So it's that kind of mum guilt. But maybe just the anxiety, that sort of you just want to do your best and make sure that the kids are okay. And I think just making sure, when I say they are okay, it's really difficult because unless they are actually speaking to you, you just don't know. I had one, just bless her. It was only till I kind of said to the rest of the form group, it was like, okay, right, off you go. I just want to quickly speak to so and so, and bless her. That's then when I got like the flood of it. It was like, oh my gosh, she's going through this, that.
That's so good of you to have noticed though and like pulled her aside. So many teachers would have just been like, okay guys, bye, and shut off, but you spent the time with her.
Well, it's easy to kind of feel like that because that's the thing, the kids are so good at sort of saying yeah I'm okay, but obviously because you can't see their faces because the camera's off, it's like, okay, are they okay? Just don't know. So I'm making a habit of purposely that every form time I'm just kind of just picking out one by one.
Good. Oh, that's really good.
It's not like picking on them, but that's the only way I can kind of actually get out of them. Are we actually doing okay, or are you just saying that? Being
a teenager is hard enough on its own, with the angst and all that.
With this on top of it, having to be on a camera or having to speak over a microphone, I find it uncomfortable enough. You can probably hear me. I giggle all the time and I'm like, oh, this is uncomfortable. I can hear my own voice. I'm not a teenager. Imagine being a teenager and having to do that. It's crazy.
But also they're quite, you could understand that even if they didn't have all those chemicals and all of those changes in themselves, that they would also be quite frustrated and exasperated anyway. You must experience some of them are just point blank refuse to come on some days.
And it's also just where the frustration with the IT. So again, a lot of them feedback wise, when I say about the lessons, unfortunately I'm not an IT whiz. I can't speak for Teams. I do think that probably Teams, if they could if it could speak the software, it'd be like, well, hello, I've got the whole of the UK at the moment. So that frustration with the IT side, bless them. I do feel for them with that, because it's frustrating enough as a teacher when it sort of crashes and it kicks you out. And it's like, oh great, okay. But if they're having that, right from the morning, that kind of sets it off really, where they're kind of like, oh, it keeps kicking me off, so I'm not going to bother. So it's trying to coax them into it.
Being a teenager is hard enough on its own.
I mean, did you notice much of a difference? Obviously you were off, so you went from normal children, normal life, normal schooling, everything, to being off, to coming into this crazy new world, effectively coming back to work. Did you notice a difference in the children from obviously having been off school for so much of that term or longer? Did you notice a difference in them in terms of their social skills, in terms of how they were with their friends or how they behaved, or were they just super excited to be back around each other?
Oh no, definitely the anxiety at first. I remember the first form group in the September, and this was in the new school, so this was like kids that I'd never met before, but you could just sense that anxiety, you know, and people, because even as soon as they came through the door, actually they were greeted by teachers that were like, right, you've got to go that way, you go that way. So already it's like, hi, nice to see you after so long, but you got to go that way. You go that way. So they're already kind of like, you know, when it's like when you go shopping, or when we first kind of went into shops after, like, you know, they put the tape down and everything, you know, when you question everything, it's like, where do I go, or what am I actually allowed to do here?
You don't know if you're going to get in trouble.
It was that kind of thing. You could see it on their faces where they were a bit like, okay, right, am I doing the right thing, sort of. But you could tell after a while, then once they got sort of saying about that routine, when they were then in that routine, it kind of eased
they
a bit,
adjusted to it.
Yeah, I do think the younger ones have maybe found it a bit easier. I don't know, that I'm only basing that on the sense that younger ones, especially year sevens, they always seem very positive. They're always, you know, they're still loving the fact that, you know, just running around the playground and in their separate bubbles, they don't seem very phased. It's funny actually, the year nines mentioned this. They said, but miss, with the year sevens, it's not like a normal when you start secondary school, because, you know, when you're all like in the same school and all integrating, you know, it was that whole kind of like that they should be scared of year 11s and scared of the older kids. They haven't got that yet. And I was like, what do you mean? So what do you mean scared of the older ones? You know, but I think what they meant is in the sense of, you know,
all mixing together.
So very strange that I suppose to them it's it feels like just their own year group.
But within those bubbles, were they okay? They were like, you know, back to normal, playing with each other, running around, as you say, in the playground. They were all totally fine in that sense.
Playing with each other, maybe.
I don't
like
mean that.
Football,
I meant that, yes.
Not like Lego, not Lego. They're too old for Lego.
Yeah, they are.
The usual kind of, you know, friendship groups, the fallouts already, you know, back to the teenage drama of, she's fallen, she's not friends with me anymore, that kind of thing. That's all still going on. And like I said, even on the teams, I can't stop them with the chat where they're all falling out just because one's made a comment and it's like, she was meaning that in a mean way, miss, you know, and it's like, no, you've misunderstood. You know. So teenage drama still going on.
You did actually mention in your reply to the email that we sent you that you think that we don't give them enough credit for their resilience, and that you do believe that somewhere after all this that they're actually quite good at getting back to normal.
In normal is in the sense of, I do think it's going to be difficult because they're so used to now all these different routines, but I think just the fact that they have just gone with it, like I haven't noticed many kids that have been outrightly, you know, that there's no kind of like stamping of feet, refusing to do anything. And I know for some students they might struggle, you know, there's no you know, denying that the mental health wise, you know, and some students are struggling with that change, you know, but I think in general, I do think, of adults and kind of kids, I do think, they're very flexible. I do think we should give them more credit that they have just gone with it. I mean, because especially speaking to my sixth form, you know, thinking that, you know, they were a year 11 last year, and just me personally, I don't know about anyone else, but I was that kind of person. I was already worrying about, like, you know, I want to get the best grade GCSE, I want to get into sixth form, I was heading all right, I want to get those grades for uni. I'd already planned by then I wanted to be a teacher as well, which is quite sad to think.
Oh, that's lovely.
I was like so adamant. It was, you know, the whole, definitely, this is what I'm talking about, like trying to keep their ambition, you know. You know, so, but I could not imagine, I mean, I was already quite anxious and it was adamant, like, got to get the grades, but to suddenly get told, actually, no exams, or that's what you get in, you know, to just be able to just accept that, and they're carrying on, they're just as they are, you know.
You've got to worry about a class full of, you know, young adults who are probably going through all sorts of things. You've got to be an educator, you've got to be a counsellor, you've got to be a confidant. Who's looking out for you?
Yeah. I think it's mainly from support from each other, you know, in terms of like colleagues and other teachers, and I must admit TAs are amazing. I've got one TA at the moment with my year 10 group, and it's funny, when the kids don't respond, she's always there. She's like, I'm here, miss, and it's lovely
Oh,
to have. But it sounds
yeah.
silly, but even when like IT's going wrong, like just that kind of
That's
that
lovely.
understanding, just that person, fall back on. And
So does your TA come into teams with you then? So you're obviously,
yeah,
oh wow, that's so
yeah,
good.
to
That's really
support the
good.
student.
Your
Yeah, so
TA. Your TA.
if
Well, you know who you are, TA. Big shout out to you.
yeah.
Amazing.
She's awesome, and I think
Oh,
the thing is as well. Actually, bless her, she was just chucked into the job, So
oh wow.
I think it's the thing. A lot of people. That's another pressure that So schools wise, we're all just randomly picking up things that maybe we've not had training for, or just
Yeah.
just trying to help out where we can really. So
Yeah.
I think each other. It was nice just before Christmas as well. There was random colleagues that were putting chocolate bars in our pigeonholes and stuff and keeping us
Oh,
that's
all
that's
lovely.
going.
lovely. Oh, I
That's
So
love
great.
that.
That's great.
yeah, so I do think that is good. And some parents, I've had some really good feedback from some parents that are just saying they appreciate what we do as teachers,
Mm.
and I think that's lovely. And I think just to kind of put it out there that there's some parents that if they feel that it's difficult because some parents maybe just feel like we don't understand from their point of view, but
Mm.
some of us are parents as well, and I do everything that they're doing with homeschooling, I think it's just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And keeping that going. I know that certainly one of my sisters she's like, oh, this homeschooling is really difficult, he's got like
Oh.
20 pieces today, and I do have to just keep reminding, we've just got to do our best,
Yep.
and
It's all you
I
can
think that's
do.
the thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Still
I
really
sort of
feel
say
for you
shout
though.
out to the parents really
Yeah.
as
Big
well.
shout out to the parents.
Yeah,
That's very kind.
yeah, especially listening to my voice as well if they can hear me. I'm sometimes a bit like, oh gosh, especially in the mornings where it's like, okay, there's me again in the morning going hi.
Oh.
You can tell my sixth one like, miss, it's too early for positivity. Like, please give me at least 5 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah, Monday morning seems to be the worst. It's like,
Oh
okay,
God. Don't we all
I'll
love
tone it
Mondays?
down.
There's-
Toned it down on the Monday.
Lockdown is the whole situation is hard for just your average Joe. Somebody who's just getting on with their own life, and how
Yeah,
that's affecting people unilaterally across the board. But for
yeah,
you, I really feel for you. You are dealing with a great deal of other people's effects and what it's doing to them. And at the end of the day, you've still got to be you. So
yeah.
it's great having sort of that support from friends and colleagues, but I don't know. Like it feels like you deserve more than that.
I think just the little things, so like the more parents, if they come back and, the kind of the little messages where they're like, oh, thanks for what you do, that kind of thing. It's just lovely. And actually, I think you just see it through the kids, as long as the
Yeah.
kids are happy and they're good, that's what kind of do it for really. As long as they're happy. And if there are any issues, as long as we can work through them. And it's that whole, just remembering that we are all in this together. And I know there is that we're all in the same storm together, but not in the same boat. So everyone's got their own challenges, their own, things. I mean, I've been very fortunate that I haven't lost anyone, and I think that's the thing, it's just supporting each other, throughout it all.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think just
Just from
that
the way you
united
speak,
front that we need to get back.
just from the way you speak, we can hear that you consider it more of a vocation for
Yeah.
you than it is just a job.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You sound like a natural born teacher,
Yeah,
that's for
definitely.
sure. And the way you
Ah,
care, you can hear how much you care about your kids, and that is so lovely to hear. I love that because so
Really
many
is.
people are so
thank you.
disgruntled right now, and we don't hear as much of the positive side of things. I keep saying that in the media, that it's just all negative all the
Yeah.
time.
Maybe it's just because pressure creates polarization. People just become hugely strong with their opinions because everybody's feeling this pressure themselves, and they look for
Yeah.
avenues to take it out, whether that be teaching or the government or this or NHS this, and it just becomes this really weird vacuum of emotions
Yeah.
as opposed to
It's very true.
taking
It
your
kind of
time.
like tunnel vision a bit, yeah. So where everyone's just focused on the news, and I think that's just why I kind of say to the kids, because it's funny actually. A lot of them are like, "Miss, don't you watch the news?" And it's like, actually, I must admit, I do find a lot of it quite negative.
Yeah.
I'd rather, let's focus on the positive stories. And one of the tasks with the tutor group, it was like, right, okay, what have we actually heard in the news that's really good? Like, what's positive out there?
Mhm.
So it was like the parent, and there might be a statue for to Captain Tom.
Yeah, I heard that.
Maybe. I don't know. I've heard it, and I was like, what do we think about that? So it's just reminding ourselves that things are tough and that, but we just gotta keep working together with it, which I do think last lockdown there felt like more of that. It felt a bit more like we were understanding and we were a bit more together on it. So I think if we can kind of get that back, that kind of okay, we're all struggling, but we can do this. You know, just gotta be aware of each other's sort of situations, which
this is England, we make do and mend.
Yes, I do love that. Yes, definitely.
Well, I think if you can sound this positive after such a crazy year for you, having your little one being thrown back into a school, having to wear a face shield, dealing with COVID-19 in a brand new school, no less, not even just going back into one you already know. If you can be this positive, then everybody else needs to take something from you. For sure.
You're actually cheering us up, I'm sure.
I think if I had to sort of sum it up, it's also just remember about self-care. We really all need that, like those little things that we can do, you know, whether it sounds silly, but I was really happy that I was painting my nails the other day. I was like, that's it, paint my nails, that's it, you know, a bit of, I had to watch Bridgerton, put Bridgerton on, which the sixth form I'm very happy about. So that was the one thing, actually. I managed to break through, right? So there was silence in tutor for a couple of days, and I was like, right, okay, we've got to get them talking somehow. Right, let's think. And then I just thought, right, what have we been watching on TV? I was watching Bridgerton, and no word of a lie, literally it was like hands up, it was like, you know, people talking at me, like shouting, literally like, oh miss, love Bridgerton, you know. So there you go. So that whole things. Kind of little things, self-care, you know,
it's important. You're definitely my kind of person.
Thank you.
You know what, this has been amazing. Thank you ever so much for coming on, and you really opened our eyes, and hopefully you'll open a lot more people's eyes to what you go through in doing your job. We have nothing but respect for you. So thank you very much for everything you've done.
Very much.
It's lovely to talk to you.
And have a good evening. We hope it's peaceful.
You too. Thank you. Well, it's gone very quiet. So, that's what I'm wondering. Yeah,
Enjoy.
That's a typical mum response. It's gone quiet.
Yeah, good luck investigating that one.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
See you now. Bye.
Bye.
Wow.
Lovely lady.
Wow, what a sweetheart.
Yeah,
amazing.
lovely lady.
Amazing. So what do you think? You think they get paid enough, Hannah?
Oh, see, I'm not. That's a difficult one.
I'm putting it out there. I don't feel like they get paid enough at all. Not for what they go through.
It's a really difficult one, because I don't think they get paid enough at all. No, not. I think there's a lot of key workers, a lot of people out there who are being shoved on the front line, doing all these things, putting themselves in, I don't want to say the word danger, but, you know, in front of everything. Not one of them's paid enough.
No.
Not one of them. The people who are paid way too much are sat quite safely, social distancing, sitting on TV cameras, that kind of thing. But those people, teachers, nurses, doctors, everyone.
Yeah. But do you know what? Teaching's a funny old thing, because you do get polarised views. You get some parents say, oh, you know, all they do is strike, to get what they want. All they do is... I don't feel like there's anywhere near enough respect for what they go through. It's such a hard job.
Yeah,
it's
really
such
is.
a hard job.
It really, really
and
is.
you know, you like someone like me. You know, tomorrow by magic, I'm a teacher. There's no way. I would like implode. I couldn't do the job. There's no way. She's right. It's a vocation, and you can hear from her voice.
She sounds like such a
she
teacher.
was built for it.
She was
built for it, and they are.
Yeah.
You know, they're built for the vocation of it. Yeah. And they go out there, they have this fantastic positive attitude. You know, they're helping to develop our children into being well-rounded, better people. You know, you heard from what she says. She's not just an educator.
No.
She's a counsellor. You know, she's having to do far more than the remit of her normal job.
Yeah.
And that's without considering that she's at home. She's still doing a normal job. She's still got to do all this paperwork. She's still got to spend that time. And she's got a toddler in the background smashing up her house. I mean...
It's amazing.
Amazing.
It is amazing.
All power to her.
Honestly, so much respect for that. It's insane.
Oh, that's great. Really enjoyed that.
I did too.
Yeah.
She's lovely. I would love to have had a teacher like her.
Yeah, me too. You know, I had some really good teachers, you know, some fantastic teachers. So I have nothing but respect for teachers.
Yeah, me too.
So, yeah, all power to you guys. We hope you get paid a bit more money. We hope you get vaccinated in advance of other people being put in a situation that might be dangerous for you. And we hope that your life gets a little bit easier.
Fingers
With
crossed.
that, goodbye now.
Bye.